I'm not gonna mince words here. This past season wasn't, well, the greatest. Sure, we probably had one of the better shows of the year already presented to us. There were some others that posed good ideas with weird executions, and others that just fell flat. Well, now it is a new season with a new set of shows. Mostly new. Anyways, as half of what I want to talk about today are actually sequels. We got 4 sequels and 4 new arrivals that will hopefully make this season far more entertaining than the last, which frankly is a low bar, I know, but I'm trying to find positives about anime at the moment. So let's take a gander at all of the shows that I am anticipating, that I am starting to watch, and that I'm hoping will be good for the anime spring season of 2020. Let's jam. Let's start this video off with the sequels. Mostly because there's not much to talk about aside from their existence and how hype I am for them. If you've watched their earlier seasons, then hopefully you'll be just as excited as I am. First up, Kaguya-sama, Season 2. Will Chika continue to be best girl? Will the new characters be as exciting as the existing ones? Will the Prez and Vice Prez finally confess their love? Of course not, because then the show would be over. I really loved the original season last year for its unique premise and its ability to keep that premise alive throughout the whole season. It could be that we have already jumped the shark with the whole narrative though, and this season might fail to impress, but of course we won't know until it comes out. What I am hoping for, though, is that we have at least one scene that is as good as that Chika ending from last year. If we get that, I'll be satisfied. Although a killer OP would be nice as well. Yes, quite. Next, Fruits Basket. The proof that, yes, they were planning on continuing this remake, and will hopefully do so until the entire manga has been adapted. In Season 1 alone, we surpassed what the original Fruits Basket adaptation covered. So if you became a fan of the franchise way back when, which I know sounds like a crazy thing for anyone who didn't know what anime was before 2013, or wasn't even alive back in 2001 when the original aired. If you somehow were a fan of the original adaptation and didn't go on to read the manga, then the show will be even more amazing with all of its new content that you haven't watched yet. I hope. We'll see. Of course, the downside is that there is still not a 100% solid absolute guarantee that the series will adapt literally everything until the manga's finale, so we'll just have to hope and pray on that. Next, Ascendance of a Bookworm, Season 2. Now, Season 1 of this series was really a hard one to recommend, not because it was bad, but because the vast majority of its good points for a lot of people were also shared by a similar series airing at the same time, Dr. Stone. You have a protagonist shifted to a much less technological world than they are used to, and the entertainment comes from them having to try and survive and recreate different technologies using their future sight. The biggest difference between them, though, is that Senku is in a post-apocalypse with literal rocks and sticks, whereas Mind from Bookworm actually found herself in an existing human society. Just one without her necessities like shampoo, fancy baking, and books. Unless, of course, you were born into nobility and then you had most of these things. There's actually a series airing this season called Arte that might be doing a similar thing with a protagonist that has to fight with a noble society that, you know, to try and get what she wants done. But I'm not highlighting it because while I am sure I will potentially love that one too, I am much more hyped for Bookworm. I'm already invested. I've shown my hand and my love for this series. Now we all just have to wait and see how it plays out. The final sequel of note, Oregaru Season 3. Holy freaking I was not expecting Snafu to return after 5 years and had literally let that ship sail, especially given the cliffhanger of an ending we got at the end of Season 2. If you never watched the videos I did on the previous seasons of Snafu, the Cliff Notes version of my thoughts is that I was, and am, completely in love with the characters from Snafu, but largely felt that Season 2 of the show was a stopgap. It was a bridge between Season 1 and some mythical future season, because nothing felt like it progressed. It did have its moments, but a lot of the season felt like padding. But now, there's a Season 3. Assuming they don't do the same thing and pad everything out like they did with Season 2, this one could be the answer to all of my prayers. Or it could continue to add to my pessimism about late sequels in general. What with, Chihaya Furu 3 ending on a cliffhanger after a 6-year hiatus with no 4th season announced. So yeah, I have reasons to be cautious about Snafu, but I'm trying not to let them snuff out my hope. We need more hope. So, with sequels out of the way, let's take a gander at the new arrivals for this season. Shall we? let's start by getting this one out of the way. BNA, Brand New Animal, affectionately referred to on the internet so far as Trigger's furry anime. In the world of BNA, there exists two separate societies, humans and beastmen. The two don't get along very well because of the history between them. Beastmen mostly live in hiding, but they have created one city, Anima City, where they can live as themselves in peace. Main protagonist Michiru, a human girl, wakes up one morning to find that she has been turned into a beastman and must run away to Anima City where she can hopefully find a way to change back. She also joins a baseball team for some reason. Since Beastars last year, I am slightly curious as to why we're starting to get a lot more shows of the more animalistic nature. But considering that both BNA and Beastars were produced for the Netflix platform, I instead have to wonder about the tastes specifically of those who make their approvals over there. You're doing God's work. Really, I am all for it, as Beastars was great, and Trigger hasn't made an uninteresting show so far, though we could start to get exceptions. The bigger downside, of course, is the Netflix lock. While BNA will be on television in Japan, as per usual, the worldwide release on Netflix is still tentative. All we know is that it's supposed to come out sometime in 2020, though not necessarily this season. I'm putting it here in this video anyway because it's still coming out somewhere this season, even if we don't necessarily get to watch it legally. So let's move on to a series that we can watch that is coming out this season. Appare-Ranman sees a Japanese engineer and a broke samurai somehow inexplicably on a boat to the brave new world of America, where they are now both destitute on the city streets with no cash to their name, but they hear of a tournament, a cross-country race from Los Angeles to New York, with a massive grand prize. With know-how and gumption between them, they build a steam-powered car to get them there. And this is basically Wacky Racers in anime form, and I am freaking all here for it. There are a number of reasons why I'm stoked for this outside of the premise, which is just so stupidly insane that I can't help but be hyped for it. Reason the first, PA Works. While I ended up ultimately disappointed by their series, Fairy Gone, from last year, they still have a history of shows that I have adored. Granted, that was largely due to their character dramas, and the trailers for Appare-Ranman have a much more high-octane feel to them, so we'll have to see if they can pull it off. Second, Funimation grabbed it, which hopefully means it'll get simuldub status. And why is this a good thing, you ask? Well, because in the history of anime dubbing, Funimation has, in the past, absolutely nailed this era of America with character voices back when they did, Baccano. So if they can recapture that magic for the setting of Appare-Ranman, we'll be in business. Reason the final, Evan Call. Evan was the composer for Violet Evergarden, a show which had the best soundtrack of that year, and is still a favorite of mine to listen to just on its own. Seeing Evan's name attached to the music gives me hope that even if this series falls flat narratively, then at least we will have a soundtrack to look forward to. Now, of course, the tone difference between Evergarden and what Ranman seems to have is leagues apart, but considering that my favorite song that Evan has ever actually made was attached to a really shit show called Big Order, and that was a much more bombastic soundtrack, so because of that, my hopes can remain high. Second to last for today is one that has already started airing as of when I'm sitting here recording it, and that is Kakushigoto, a story about a manga artist who is famous for his rather lewd and vulgar material. It is also how he apparently tries very hard to keep that material away from his young daughter. The trailers showcase a rather serene feeling coming off the show, despite the fact that it's actually a comedy. Not surprising considering the original creator is the same mangaka that brought us Sayonara Zetsubou Sensei, and the art styles between the two shows are quite similar, even if their studios are very different. I've been looking forward to this not only just to see this apparent slice of life series come to life, but also just to see more material adapted from this mangaka. I loved Zetsubou Sensei, and while this might not have the same kind of zany nature to it, I'm really hoping that it'll still be enjoyable. But the last show for today, but certainly not the least, is Tower of God. Hell, I was sold just with those first few music beats. The trailers and official plot descriptions have been extremely vague, and as I am woefully behind on the original material, I may not be doing justice to this summary, but the story is centered around a boy named Bam, who has grown up in the shadow below a place known as the Tower of God. When his good companion Rachel decides to enter the tower on her own, it is up to Bam to follow in her footsteps, as he is told Whatever he wants can be found at the top of the tower. So he climbs and faces the many challenges that the tower has to offer. The series up until this point has similar history to other extremely popular shows in the past, like One Punch Man, in that it started as a webcomic of sorts before getting popular enough to be brought over into this adapted medium. From a worldwide audience perspective, Tower of God has a massive fan base who have been following the series for most of this past decade. And honestly, it'll be interesting to see how this adaptation of the story will be received, not only by existing fans, but also by those who have never heard of the original material before. As far as I am concerned, the trailers made me hype as hell for this, and the first episode that has been released so far, there is a lot of questions. But the presentation is there. So I can hope that the rest of the adaptation will do it justice. And if it doesn't, well, like Appare-Ranman, I can almost guarantee that I will be picking up the soundtrack on its own, at the very least. Because Kevin Penkin is an absolute madman, and I am all here for it. Tower of God, while leaving many questions up into the air that I can scrutinize and probably will in future, it still has this air of epicness to it, which, if capitalized properly, will make the series something special. Or it'll be quickly forgotten about once it's over. We'll have to see, and in either case, I am looking forward to it. And that brings us to the end of the video. You guys have no idea how happy I am that this season is legitimately good. Not that the last season... Like it was. It really was. It's hard to say that last season was really bad because Eizouken was in it and Chihaya Furu 3 was in it, even though that ended not how I was hoping. It had good shows, but one or two good shows does not a great season make. So to have this slew of potentially really great shows coming out, that's a very good thing. Hopefully we will not see any production issues as the season goes on. We've already had a couple of shows delayed until later in the year due to different outsourcing problems that the studios have been having. Hopefully that won't be a thing, but if it is, you know, we'll just deal with it and we'll get the great stuff later. We can hope. Out of everything in this video though, Tower of God. Tower of God, holy shit, Tower of God. I'm really looking forward to the epicness that continues to be, and praying that it actually continues to be good. Even though it only has 13 episodes, we've had great series in the past that have surprised us with only 13 episodes. One Punch Man, as I mentioned. Hero Aka started with only 13 episodes in the beginning, and now it's up to like 80, close to 100, something like that. I'm behind in that, as you might be able to tell. But everything here I am stupidly hyped for. And all of the sequels, man, okay. I'm not going to reiterate everything that I've already put in the video. That doesn't make sense. Instead, I will finish off and let you guys go. At the end of the video, like I want to do, I want to thank all of my patrons for continuing to support this series, because we cannot do this without you. As I've mentioned in the previous video that I did before, if you are a patron or have been a patron and decide that due to the current world circumstances you are not able to continue to be a patron, that is fine. Do not worry about it. Take care of yourself. I understand. But for those who continue to do so, thank you very much. For those who become patrons, thank you very much. And of course, I do like to give very special thanks to some patrons, including City Yamako, Calhoun Boy, Phoenix Zero, Hector Montemayor, Richard Emile Bradley, Rune Jacobson, and Ryfin Bonaparte for being extremely awesome. You guys are great. So if there are any shows that you guys are looking forward to that are coming out this season that I haven't mentioned, please let me know down in the comments. There are a couple that I almost had on the list, but didn't really have much to say other than, that looks cool. Girl with a crow pet? Yeah, sure. I like that. That looks cool. That could be cool. But I didn't have much else to say beyond that. So hopefully, as with most seasons, there will be something that I didn't mention that will come up and surprise us. So let me know what you guys are watching down in the comments, and hopefully we will have time to cover it. But until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.